Greetings everybody. So I'm making a video about something other than the car that I'm in. I wanted to talk about something I've experienced quite a few times, and more specifically about a car that I went to go look at yesterday, and about some people's perception of reality. So I spotted an ad on Facebook Marketplace. It only had two pictures. It was a 1976 Rolls Royce, and it was listed with 3,000 miles. The pictures looked like that could be a possibility, but they were a little distant. Car was clean, and it was hard to tell. So I messaged the person. About a day later, I got a reply back that she was listing the car for somebody else, and turns out he's an older guy approaching 80 that doesn't have Facebook. I'll circle back more to that a little later. So we went back and forth a few times, and he told me the car was in the shop getting the brake pads replaced and getting the master cylinder rebuilt. And I thought, yeah, I mean, even with 3,000 miles, that sounds reasonable. Because he said something about the original pads being cracked or something like that, or glazed, whatever, you know. So I'm like, yeah, that all checks out. So he gave me the impression that the car was just dropped off at the shop, and the guy is waiting on some parts to get it fixed. So I'm like, okay, this all sounds good. And the asking price is $20,000 for this car, so keep that in mind as I get further into the description. So after a couple weeks, car is still sitting at the shop, but he said, you know, hey, you're welcome to come meet me at the shop, and we'll go over the car. So the shop's kind of in the middle of nowhere, a couple hours away, so I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna take a little road trip. Side note, I'm on my way to go look at another car today. But so I get there, parked next to the guy. I see the car sitting outside, and he said something about, oh, I thought he was going to keep it inside or whatever. And at the time we pulled up, the mechanic was working on getting it started. He must have, in retrospect, he must have just put a fresh battery in it. It cranked for a little bit and then fired right up. So I told the guy, hey, let's go over to he wanted to like keep talking and keep me away from the car. I'm like, hey, let's go over to the car and look at it. So he eventually followed me over there. So the first huge red flag is guy shows me the title, and he apparently bought the car about 3 years ago and never had the title signed over into his name. So he was like, oh, I could just reassign it to you. And I'm like, are you a dealer? He's like, well, you know, technically I could be, because I sell RVs or whatever the heck he said he was selling. I said, are you an official licensed car dealer? He said, no. I'm like, okay, dude, you are in prison territory here. And I had to explain to him what title jumping is. I think people just assume that it's perfectly fine to do title jumping, but in all 50 states, it's a felony and can in fact lead to prison time. He didn't appear at all fazed by that. I'm like, you know, if we strike a deal, I need you to get the title in your name. Well, then the layers get a little deeper, because he did have his name filled out as the buyer on the title, but it was for his Ohio address, and we were in Pennsylvania. He's like, well, you know, I'll probably have to go to Ohio to get the title instead of Pennsylvania. Basically, I nicely said, I don't care about that. I just need a title that's in your name. Otherwise, I can't buy it. You can't sell the car to anybody. Again, it's prison. Look it up. If you don't believe me, look it up. So anyway, head over to the car. The first thing I know, it is covered in, you know how when a car sits out for years outside, it gets this black grime on it. I don't even know what that is. Probably just not mold, but like the black grime. What the heck is that? If anybody knows, I'm kind of curious, and it was all over the outside of the car. The hood was up, or we put the hood up, and it's all in the channels of the hood. Smoke started pouring out from under the car when it was running, and I immediately noticed an exhaust leak. I looked at the seats. They were well worn. I'm like, yeah, this car does not have, well, actually, so the odometer was a 5-digit odometer, and it said like 04750 or something to that effect. So I'm like, dude, this car has 104,000 miles on it, if not 204,000 miles on it. Like, there's no way this car has 4,000 original miles. And he's like, oh, well, that's what I was told, and blah, blah, blah. Then I start looking closer at the body. There's very poorly repaired rust patches here and there, and the paint was cracking, and I was pointing all that out to him, and it seems like he legit didn't even notice any of this stuff. So it goes to some people's perception. It's not necessarily that they're misrepresenting what they have. It's just that they really don't have the power of perception, and absolute zero attention to detail, and completely oblivious to the value of such a car on the open market. He's claiming that he has 5 people ready to just hand him $20,000 for this car. So I'm like, man, you should talk to those 5 people, and if they are happy to hand you $20,000, I would consider that a win. Yeah, I did not actually make him an offer. Although I would kind of be interested possibly in the car as a little bit of a project, but I would only be willing to pay about $3,000 for it. Ignore my nav unit. It's kind of yelling at me. After it ran for a while, there was a little bit of a gasoline smell in the cabin, and so he's like, oh, I never noticed that. And then he sits in there, oh, your smeller must be better than mine, because I don't smell anything. And it just, again, inability to perceive actually rather important things. So anyway, then I'm like, let's talk to the mechanic and see what his timeline is. Well, turns out the car wasn't actually just sitting there for a couple weeks. The car's actually been there for at least a year, probably more, because the guy bought the car in 2021. I'm guessing he probably dropped it off at this shop in 2022 or 2023, and the shop did a little bit of work on it, and then just decided, we don't really want to work on it anymore. So I told the seller, I'm like, this guy's not going to fix this car. I have a feeling the seller is probably just going to be stuck with this car. He claims he needs money, but, you know, people who actually need money will sell something for what it's worth. You know, even if they are not happy about it, they're not going to hold on to it for years with some pipe dream that they're going to get what they want for it. So, I mean, it was definitely an interesting car. I mean, old cars like that with personality and character are always interesting. And, you know, despite it sitting outside, the interior of the car didn't smell like mold. The trunk didn't smell like mold. It just smelled like an old Rolls Royce. I do kind of wish I had some pictures or videos of it, but sometimes you can kind of just tell that it might get weird to film something in front of a person. I mean, he might have been okay with it, but right, you know, at this point, it's just an anecdote. It's just a story. You know, those of you who are into car stories may find this interesting. I'm sure there's some people out there who will find this interesting. But, you know, when I left, I told him, here's the plan. You know, see if any of those 5 guys will give you $20,000 for the car, like you say. I said, also, reach out to me when the mechanic finishes the job. You know, again, so I'll probably never hear from this guy again. And I'm sure he would have a meltdown if I did offer $3,000 for it. So as it sits now, it's not drivable. I don't fully understand this because I don't know much about the older Silver Shadows, but my understanding is that when there is a breach in the brake system, I believe the master cylinder has a massive leak, that it's the opposite of other cars. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, that the brakes actually stick on when you don't have any pressure in the system. So that would be interesting. And interestingly enough, it did have a error light on the dashboard called power brake, which makes sense. I mean, I looked in the little windows on the reservoir, and one of them was empty and the other one was kind of murky, for lack of a better word. So whatever mineral oil was in there was clearly in there for quite a long time. You know, another strange thing is the guy told me he bought the car for the sole purpose of using it in his daughter's wedding. I'm like thinking, why would you buy a car you have no intention of doing anything else with other than using it one time for a wedding? You know, you rent a car for something like that. You don't buy a car for, I don't know, it was just really, really, really weird. And he claims that he paid $20,000 for this car when he bought it. And, you know, given his lack of attention to detail and flawed perception of reality, I mean, he may very well have seen the car completely different than it really is. And I've run into this before, and it's usually the old timers. This guy, like I mentioned, was pushing 80. I don't know, it's almost like they're envisioning something that's not there. I remember one old Benz I looked at, where the guy had owned it for well over 20 years, and it was probably nice 20 years prior, but at the time he was selling it, it was a complete rust bucket junk. And so, you know, it's like it probably in his mind looked the same as it did 20 years ago, and when I pointed out the rust, like the whole rocker panel was gone, the rear fenders were gone. I mean, when I pointed that out to him, he just got belligerent. I don't know, you know, it's the whole I know what I got kind of mentality. And, you know, you go there, you have an interesting experience, and then you move on. I absolutely love going on road trips to look at cars. And it doesn't even matter if it's an individual or a dealer. Usually it's going to be something interesting, something unique. I have, for those of you who have seen some of my older videos, I've had quite an array of interesting, rare, super rare cars, including the one I'm driving now, which is a diesel S-Class S350 2012. I don't know how many of these were made, but I'm sure it's not a whole lot. And you know, I've made a lot of videos about my Nissan Versa manuals, and come to find out those are way more rare than I thought they were. I had no figures for 3 of the model years. So 2022, they only sold 400 and something. 2023, it was like 800 and something. And 2024, it was like 1,200 and something. So it's interesting that the sales of the manual Versa were going up, but they ended up discontinuing the car. The last ones rolled off the production line in May of this year. So still a super rare car. I'm on my way to go look at another rare car at a dealer, so we'll see how that experience goes. Anyway, yeah, I just wanted to share that whole Rolls Royce experience. It was really enjoyable to go out there and experience that and just observe different people and their perceptions, and you can't get mad at that. You know, you really gotta, so if you're gonna buy a car sight unseen, you really gotta figure out if the person knows what they're talking about. Now this guy was a little not shifty, flighty, a little flighty the whole time, so I would have never taken his word on anything. And of course, you know, when somebody tells you they have a 3,000 mile car, and they can't really back anything up, you know, that you got to take that with a grain of salt. I've looked at or I've responded to a couple ads recently where older cars where people claim it has X number of miles, and whenever I say, hey, do you have any paperwork supporting this? Oh, well, it's on the title. I'm like thinking, yeah, people can put whatever they want on the title. That's not supporting documentation, you know. So, but I guess, you know, people like that buy cars from each other. So, you know, complete junk cars with God knows how many miles on them can probably sell for top dollars to somebody who does not know how to have a good perception of things. And all right, anyway, have a great day, everyone.